Time for a break from our show to pay the bills. Check out beacons.ai/comics fund profit for all the C4 FAP links you could ever need, all in one place. You can provide feedback, listen, support, share, enjoy these. We have our Patreon there. You can buy us a beer or a coffee. You can check out our Instagrams, our Twitters, our Facebooks. Check out our YouTube page. You can email us. You can listen to our podcasts on Patreon, if you're a subscriber, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, on Podbean. We have Google Podcasts on there. We have an Amazon wish list. You want to buy Kyle and I something? Fine. You can do that here. We appreciate it. We have Kyle's RPG podcast listed on there, so you can check out his Dork Day afternoon offerings. We have Cowabunga links, so you can check out the Cowabunga deep discount FOC and pre-order list. Get on that. That's RLCS, so you can check that out as well. And we want to just give you opportunities to say hi, to check out what we're doing, support us if you would like, or just listen. Check out beacons.ai/comics fund profit for all the C4 FAP links you could ever need. Thanks. Back to the show.
Aloha, it's Jason from Hawaii. Welcome to a special edition of the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. In this episode, I will be interviewing friends of the podcast, writers Alisa Kwitney and Hanna Bahedry. Alisa and Hanna are
Alisa.
Alisa.
Sorry.
No, that's fine. Alisa.
Alisa. It's a hard name.
No, it's not. It's spelled like how it is.
Yeah, but it's almost 5,000 other names.
Yeah,
Allison, Alisa, Alicia, Alicia. It's very confusing.
It's Alisa. That's all it is. Alisa, right?
I am just Alisa. Yes.
I'm sorry. So, all right, listeners, you guys are in for a treat. This is so. And Alisa, I've been seriously. Last night, I've been going. Okay, it's Alisa, and then I kept going. Wait, let me listen to other podcasts how they make sure they pronounce the name correctly.
Oh, a lot of people just call me Kwitney.
No. Oh no! All right, we're gonna continue on. Okay, so. Alisa and Hanna, they are here to promote their stories that will appear in Ahoy Comics' latest anthology series, Project Cryptid. Now, Ahoy Comics will be celebrating its 5th anniversary this September, if I got that correctly. And they will be launching a new anthology series called Project Cryptid that in September. The first issue comes out on September 6th, and in that issue, there are stories by Mark Russell and Paul Cornell. There's also going to be, now Hanna, correct me if I'm wrong on this, there's going to be serialized prose novella titled The Partially Naked Came the Corpse. And is it a 13-part novella? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's 13-part prose serial. So Grant Morrison's writing the first chapter, and then it's like an exquisite corpse. We're all just jumping on the train, seeing what they wrote. And so I haven't written my part yet, but I'm excited to.
Because I know actually Stuart Moore today just tweeted out the list of authors like Carrie Harris, Mark Russell, Bryce Ingram. I know I'm missing a few, and I know yours is going to be like I have to look at my notes. Yours is going to come out in November, part 11, in issue Conan on number 5, if I got that correctly. So yeah. I'm going to and hopefully if I remember, I'm going to ask you during the interview, if you could just give us a breakdown, what is this serialized novella about? So yeah, but I'll ask you a little bit more in the during the interview. So Alisa's story in Project Cryptid, that her story will appear in issue 2, and that's going to come, and that is slated to come out this year, October 11th. Hanna's story will appear in issue 6 that is slated for next year, February of 2024. Alisa and Hanna, welcome to the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. How are you guys doing today?
Doing well. Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. And then also too, I have to point this out. This is Hanna's. Now, Hanna, you mentioned in the in your email to me was that this is your first audio podcast that you're doing. Is that correct?
Correct. I feel very blessed to be here. I've sent so many of our creators to this podcast as the publicist for Ahoy, so now I'm glad to actually be here myself.
No, thank you very much. And Alisa, this is the first time you're kind of like sort of seeing Hanna, correct? Or have you guys met over Zoom before?
This is true. Just as in so many science fiction tales, Hanna was just a disembodied but kind voice. And I believed that she existed, but this is my first tangible proof.
Now it's
all right. Now, before I continue on, I just want to go over some Alisa's work, past works. She has written for Ahoy Comics. I know she's done at least a story in the Edgar Allan Poe Sniffer of Death, if I got that title correctly.
Sniffer
but
of Death.
The one Berenice. I want, I'm sorry.
Berenice. It's was the Poe story that Mauricet and I did together.
And you teamed up. You guys teamed up again for the amazing series from Ahoy Comics. It's now in trade paperback. Gilt, G-I-L-T. I love that series. I really do.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
And we continue to conspire together in ways that will eventually see the light of day, I believe.
That's so cool. That's so cool. Also, too, you've Alisa, you've also for Aconite Books, you wrote a prose novel, Rogue Untouched. I'm going to be honest, I want to check that out. That's on my list to pick up.
Well, it's funny because the Women of Marvel asked me, wait, I'm going to plug in my computer because I didn't realize it's now sending me distress signals. I want to satisfy its longing. All right, here we go. Thing I should have done at the very beginning, but I'm doing now. So the Women of Marvel suddenly wanted to ask me, I guess they were thinking about Rogue and her love life. Yes. And so they talked to me about the book, which I always, for me, sorry, that's my computer saying at last, water, atmosphere. So for me, Rogue, I have this theory that Cyclops is the avatar of a certain kind of male adolescent sexuality with his uncontrollable beams coming out of his eyes. So powerful, so dangerous. I hope I don't hurt the person who gets close to me in intimacy. And Rogue is the avatar of female adolescent sexuality. Like, oh, I touch you and I gain great power, but I also lose my sense of self.
Wow. I've never thought about that. That is very deep and very cool. I just never thought of the Women of Marvel. Is that an interview podcast that you've done?
Yeah, so that was a podcast somewhere else in the podosphere. I suppose there is now, I think, officially a podcast for everything.
Yes. And I'm going to say now, before we continue on, because I'm going to, which podcast I'm going to mention too, is that now I just want to go over your background work. You've worked at DC on Neil Gaiman's The Sandman, and you went on to become a full editor at Vertigo, and that's where you met Karen Berger and Tom Peyer. And speaking of podcasts there's a podcast for everything. You co-host, you're a co-host of the podcast, The Endless, a Sandman podcast. I'm going to ask, is that still, are you guys still doing that?
Yes. Okay. So I've actually just received Lonnie Diane Rich, my co-host, just sent me, this summer has been a wacky summer. She's moved again and she's been teaching, and it just both of us got very, very busy. But we're going to come back and continue on going back to podcasting about the Sandman comics, which she has not read. And I worked on a lot of them as assistant editor. So we'll come back. I think we'll probably come back. We were going to come back in July, but my schedule has not permitted that. But we will be coming back probably in the early fall.
Oh, that's going to be pretty cool. That is. All right. Now
back to school.
Yes. Alisa, I'm going to ask, would you like to add anything else? Do you want to let our listeners know what other works that they should check out that you've done? Because I know you've done a ton of books.
I've written a lot of books. I've written, I think my voice, my sense of humor, and my strange prurient obsessions kind of follow me from genre to genre. But I've written women's fiction. I've written mystery. I've written a couple of Frankenstein retellings that are YA. So I've written werewolf books so strange that even werewolf book fans say, well, this is definitely a different take on the werewolf romance. So I think you should come look at my website, come find me on Blue Sky, or, in the dying days of Twitter X, and you can check out all the many strange. I am like the Sybil of writers at this point. I have many personalities.
Now, speaking,
I didn't hear first. Actually, I got to put my publicist hat on. I know that Alisa just got nominated for the first ever Juicy Awards as the Writer of the Year for Guilt, which I am a publicist of it, but also just a huge fan of it. So I have to plug that.
yes,
one of my favorite books I worked on at Ahoy, and it's really cool to see it getting nominated, or to see Alisa getting nominated specifically as a writer.
So, Alisa, do you want to talk about that nomination? Because I remember seeing that on your Twitter feed. That's right.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it is really exciting to me because this is kind of a strange time to be Jewish, in that, I remember my grandmother had grown up and both my grandparents on my mother's side had grown up in Tsarist Russia, which was a dicey time to be Jewish. And she would say things to me. She would say, never sit on anything cold or you'll never be able to control your pee again. But that was another thing. But she would also, tell me, like, you have to be cautious as a Jewish person. And I thought, oh, she's so old fashioned. These are the 1970s. People are way more civilized than that now. But anyway, so I've tried always to write Jewish characters, not out of a sense of, well, okay, so I'll just say a little bit that when I started writing romance and romantic women's fiction, there was sort of a default that all the characters tended to be Christian. It was, Protestant by default. Yes. So I thought, okay, let's just add a little bit of ethnicity in here. And now I think, as there seems to be a kind of weird recurrence of anti-Semitic and anti-other, I mean,
yes,
there seems to be, less. I think there's particularly been, I feel always uncomfortable saying things in public, but I am aware of there being more anti-Asian and more anti-Semitic violence and just, graffiti and signs of things around. So anyway, I feel really pleased to be part of this, and it is making me revisit all of Mel Brooks's old films in a feeling of just, coming back to my roots.
Yes. And Hannah, I'm going to say, I want you and Alisa to just briefly talk about Alisa, I'm going to start off. This is kind of off the cuff, but for listeners, let's just start off, because since, you've been nominated for Guilt, why don't you just let listeners know what is Guilt about? And Hannah, jump in. Please feel free to just jump in too.
Guild is it's an acronym, the Guild of Independent Lady Temporalists. And it's about a woman in her 70s who lives in a co-op building on the Upper West Side that has some, special perks. In this building, if you're the owner of 15D and you go out your fire exit door, the door from the back of your kitchen, you can travel back about 40 years in your own lifespan, and you will be back in your younger body in that younger moment in time. And Hildy wants a do-over, as many of us imagine doing. But she breaks the rules when her home healthcare aide goes back in time with her. And now Hildy's in her 30s. Her home healthcare aide is a 8 or 9-year-old with the intelligence of a woman in her 50s. And they're both realizing that they have a lot of work to untangle this, both to figure out what their relationship is and what they need to do to not screw up reality for the rest of us.
Hanna, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great pitch. It's pretty much what I put in the press release. But honestly, it's one of my favorite books to work on. Like, I love seeing female characters in anything, right? Especially in comics, and especially the fact that these were both older women, like that the story was centered around their experiences, and just so funny. And I love Mauricet's art. The way that the two of you work together is so incredible.
Yes.
One of those ones where every week I was like going into the Dropbox, like, is the next issue here yet? Read it ahead of anyone else. So it's been really cool to meet you, and to, I don't know, just it felt really great to be able to work on a book like that I just really admired what you were doing, and it made me feel like, oh, there's so much space for interesting stories in comics that, you know, aren't just like what we are told arts comics have to be for, right? That there's so many cool ways to tell stories in that medium, and like Guilt was one of the ones that sort of busted my mind open and was like, wow, you can tell this kind of story in comics. Like, that's so cool. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much. And I have to say, so I am really excited to find out. I mean, I don't want to jump ahead, but I'm really excited to know what your story is, because I mean, first of all, can I take a moment and just ask Hanna, how long have you been writing?
Yes.
I've been writing like forever, pretty much. I was the 5-year-old scribbling stories, for my mom, but I've been writing, I guess, more seriously since I was in high school. And never stopped, kept trying to stop and do more serious things, but couldn't stop. So yeah.
And are there any particular genres? Like, I'm obviously writing for Ahoy. I'm assuming that humor has been a part of your DNA.
Yeah, humor is definitely a part of my DNA. Both my parents are English, and I just grew up on Monty Python and stuff, so it was impossible not to see the world as completely absurd. But yeah, I write mostly short stories. I'm writing a book of short stories, which may or not be a novel now. But and then once I started working for Ahoy, I kind of have been more in the comics moment, and now having my first comic published, which is really cool, and I hope so. Yeah. And then I write the newsletter for Ahoy as well. So that's been a really fun place to just get really silly. Like, the Ahoy voice is very silly and wry and fun. So I just got to leap in there and play with it. And it's been rewarding to get to.
I love the newsletter. I love that. That has been a lot of fun. It makes me feel like I'm hanging with the cool kids.
They say about me all the time.
I'm sorry, Alisa. I just want to go over Hanna's past works real quickly, because listeners, Hanna is a publicity coordinator at Superfan Promotions, and as Hanna has mentioned, that she's a writer. She writes the Ahoy monthly newsletter. She's written a couple. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Hanna. A couple short fiction prose stories that have appeared in Ahoy, in the back section of Ahoy comics, like. First one that you correct me if I'm wrong. The first one you did was titled "I Hadn't Prepared Any Remarks," and that appeared in Ahoy Comics Second Coming Only Begotten Son #3. Right. And then The Voice of Ahoy in Highball #2. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. It's really cool. I love that Ahoy does that they have fiction in the back of their comics, and that they pay their writers. It's very, very cool. So there's a lot of people writing short stories. Well, no, there's not a ton of people who are willing to pay you for them. So it's really cool that Ahoy is making space for that.
Because I know, because, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm trying to remember when I did my interview with Tom Pyre last year, was he wanted to he just didn't want to make it a comic book. He wanted to make it like, this, if you're going to pay for this, we want to give you a comic book, but also extra things in the back, like either a short prose story, or I remember David Hyde, the Superfan Promotion, he did a he did like a martini recipe.
Right.
In Highball?
I believe it was in the Wrong Earth one shots, where they had a series of different writers.
That's right. Yes.
They had Mark Way, they had Gail Simone, and in the back he had different themed recipes that were sort of themed of the world that we were on. And yeah, there's always really funny letters from the editors or to the editors, and sometimes amazing art or even, like games, weird stuff back there. And sometimes it's related to whatever's going on piece. So I always thought it was really cool that they make space for that. They really want to give you bang for your buck.
It really, yes, it really, and that's what I love about Ahoy Comics. It not just only offers the comics, but it also too is like these little short stories to read. Um, Hannah, I just also want to mention that, to our listeners, that some of your works have also appeared in some. Is it the main review? Is that a magazine or a website?
I think it's an online journal.
Okay. And then also to Always Crashing, that I saw the website. And Method Magazine?
Method Magazine, yeah, that was a journal I worked on at Wesleyan University, which I think Alisa and I are both alum.
I guess I knew that and then forgot it because that's my brain. Where did you live?
I lived in Westco for the first 2 years.
Westco!
Yeah.
That means you're a hippie.
Absolutely. I'm wearing a WESU shirt right now. I worked at the radio station. Yeah, had a lot of fun there. So it's cool to meet more Wesleyan people out in the wild, and they're always doing something interesting.
Yeah.
Oh wow. But yeah, I wrote, edited that magazine there. Just been writing stories, submitting them out. People want them or publishing them or not. And it's been cool.
That's so nice. Now, Hannah, would you like to add anything else before I ask you one question that you saw already?
No, not much. I mean, yeah, I've been working for Ahoy as their I've worked for Superfan Promotions, which David Hyde's company, and then we're sort of the implicits for Ahoy as well. So I've been there almost 4 years now. And it's just been super great to work with them, and they've been really generous in, offering me opportunities to write different things. I felt really lucky that sort of stumbled into this career. I used to work for David's wife, Dara Hyde, over at her literary agency. So it's been really cool to now see this other side of publishing, comics published, just like totally opened a new door to totally different types of storytelling. So it's been really cool to go from feeling like a newbie in comics to now feeling like I got to write my own comics.
Yes.
Being a part of the world and all the really cool creators.
And before I continue, sorry, off the cuff question, because not only are you publicity coordinator at Superfan Promotion for Ahoy Comics, but you also do for, I think I saw recently, is it Oni Press?
Yeah, we have a bunch of
like which other? Yeah, who are your other clients? That's on.
Sometimes we do work for Fantagraphics, for Dark Horse, for Clover Press, for Kickstarters. We're pretty much, we have our fingers in everything in the indie comic scene, pretty much.
Yeah. All right. Now the question I want to ask you, because I've seen it, because I have, and Alisa, I'm going to mention the article that I saw this or related to the question I'm going to ask to Hannah, because Hannah, you wrote something called Face Wine Culture. Now, in your bio, at the end, in your bio, there's a quote, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or you can deny this, either way. Quote, she once cut her hair into a mullet and flew to Nashville to be David Bowie for a 70s cover band show. How big of a
yeah, one of my best friends in the world is a musician in Nashville. And they were putting on a 70s cover band show. And at one point in college, I had very short hair. So my friend showed a picture of me with short hair to the booker and was like, I know you're looking for David Bowie. Like, this is my friend with short hair. She could do it. So then I had to cut my hair off again to be Bowie. So I cut it all off. And flew to Nashville. And I'm not a musician, by the way, but I am a very big David Bowie fan. So I was like, I'm just gonna pick it. And it was really fun. I was wearing like a crazy suit. I had my best mullet on and got to perform as David Bowie. So it was like a cool bucket list item for me.
Sorry, off the cuff question. Have you ever gone to a David Bowie concert, or have you by some chance bumped into him?
I wish I could say yes, but no, it's definitely one of my like biggest life moments of like, that was one of the people I would have loved to see live that I missed. So maybe in the next life, David Bowie and I will cross paths. That's all I can hope. I did grow up with a dog named Ziggy Stardust, so I feel like there's a 6 degrees of connection somehow between us.
All right. Now, now shout outs, Hannah. I'm just going to say this to Hannah. Just thank you very much for setting up this interview. Thank you very much. Alisa, do you want to add anything to that?
I just will say that I've never really understood the distinction between a mullet and the 70s shag.
Hannah, you want to?
Yeah, I'm not sure that I'm totally qualified to answer. I feel like my gut is that the shag has more business in the front or more party in the front to say, and the mullet is supposed to be business and then party in the back. But
I think, I don't know, it's like you look at David Cassidy in his Partridge Family days.
Oh God,
and
yes.
And then you look at, I don't know, Billy Ray Cyrus.
Yes.
And I can tell that they're different, but I don't know that I can put it in words. And I just feel that anyone who's listening who could reach out to me and help me understand the nuance, because I feel it's an important nuance and might really be holding me back as a writer.
After this call,
there's a I remember now. I'm going to throw this out, Hannah. This is one of the interviews that you set up. It was with Gavin Hignite, Doc Wyatt, and Jen Fisher, because they were promoting the Nancy Drew Kickstarter figures. And I remember because since it's Nancy Drew, so Alisa, we were talking. So the conversation came about that Nancy Drew's part of pop culture. In the 70s, we had the Hardy Boys and Nancy Drew. And then the topic came up of Sean Cassidy. And I remember Gavin said, yeah, Sean Cassidy had that, because Sean Cassidy's hair was sort of like his brother David's hair. And I think Gavin said it was like it was almost like a feathery white hair type deal. So I don't know if that'll be the difference.
I just need to say that people talk openly about their first love being David Cassidy. But for those of us who were brought into an awareness of our budding womanhood by Sean Cassidy, not many are out. Yeah. And I had a poster. I listened to Da Do Ron Ron Ron. My mom, who loved Joan Baez and I don't know, Carole King, was horrified. I know it was an upsetting moment for her, but yes, I was a Sean Cassidy fan.
Because for me, I fell in love with Pamela Sue Martin. I was like, oh my God.
Kind of loved her too.
Okay, all right, sorry. I'm going to try to keep this moving on. Now, before we continue, so listeners, if you want to check out past interviews that I've done with Alisa, those were episodes 733 and 787. That's where we went a little bit more in depth about her series Gilt, Gilt. And listeners also, and Alisa, I'm just going to indulge a little bit, because this is the first time me and Hannah have really seen each other. We've communicated over emails, listeners, Hannah and I have been working together for the last 2 years. She's done a lot of work behind the scenes, such as sending out press releases and scheduling interviews. Hannah, I just want to say mahalo, thank you in Hawaiian, for helping us, the Comics for Fun and Profit podcast. You helped us grow our interview episodes, because we started back in 2021, and we were reaching out to creators. We weren't getting too many responses, but I just want to say thank you very much for reaching out to us and asking us to do interviews. So just thank you very much. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you very much for excuse me, I'm just clearing my throat. Guys, I'm not trying to, I'm not verklempt or, I just want to thank Hannah. I just want to thank you for all your kindness, your patience, and your hard work. And listeners, like I said, she's coordinated I live in Hawaii. She's coordinated interviews literally across time zones. And we're not just talking about mainland US. We're talking like England and soon from Australia. And thank you for always sending me, the 24-hour reminders. Thank you. So Hanna, just mahalo. Thank you very much for all your help. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you to say. It's wonderful to work with you. You're such a pleasure to work with. So it makes it really, really easy doing my job. So truly, it's really wonderful to have, partners like you doing this work, because it really makes my job a ton easier to have someone, as thoughtful and as prepared as you and just as kind as you. So it's, that's what this business is about, right? We're just people dealing with other people, and the more fun those people are to deal with, the easier the job is. You've made my job really easy by being such a great, partner to work with. So I appreciate that so much.
No, but thank you very much. Thank you. Also, too, sorry. So I just want to give a couple shout outs, is that some of the information I got on Hanna came from the Comic Book Yeti website. That article is called Connecting People with Comics. Comics they will love. That's an interview with Hanna Bahedry. That was written by Katie Ligra. Then that was dated on November 23rd, 2021. If you get a chance, please check that out. And my information on Alisa, please visit her website, alisakwitney.com. And this is a perfect segue. Already Alisa has mentioned that she's on Twitter, whatever they're calling it now. Alisa, and also your website. Alisa, where else are you on in social media?
I'm on Blue Sky. I think I'm Alisa.Kwitney at Blue Sky. So Bisky Social, BSKY Social.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what else? I'm on Instagram, but I'm gonna get better on Instagram and on Facebook. I haven't been posting as much as I should. It's weird when you're a writer. The more you're writing and working, the harder it is sometimes to remember to, go and interact with people.
No, but it's kind of yeah, because the only thing is I'm just only on Twitter, because I cannot, because for you as a writer, and even you, Hanna, I mean, just trying to juggle all these social and all the social media things. It's just trying to okay, I gotta remember I have to post this on this and this on this, and and yeah, it's just, and then it's kind of like going, okay, but I need time to write my stuff,
It's very real. It's why people hire superfans and do all that mess for them.
Now, Hanna, what about you? Where can listeners follow you on social media?
I'm on, the artist formerly known as Twitter right now. I think just Hanna Bahedry, and I'm on Blue Sky now as Beheads. But yeah, it's hard to keep up. I've mostly been on Twitter, and now Twitter's been dying for the past 18 months or whatever. So possible to know. It feels like we're on the lifeboat watching the Titanic sink, or maybe we're already in the water. We don't even know. But yeah, just still keeping my eye on everything to see when it sinks into the water. But for now, I want to call it X, but I guess I have to on X.
I know. I know.
And Blue Sky mostly. Yeah.
All right. Now we're gonna get into Project Cryptid. Now, Hanna, Alisa, I just want to give for new listeners some background. So Cryptid, now we're not talking about cryptocurrency. Just want to make that clear.
That's scarier.
Yeah, it's because I don't want someone to go, oh my God, are they talking about cryptocurrencies? Is that what it is? No.
Because I would forget my password. That's all there is to it.
So now, cryptids are animals that cryptozoologists believe may exist somewhere in the wild, such as Bigfoot, the Loch Ness Monster, etc. And these creatures exist in pop culture, ranging from X-Files to reality shows as Finding Bigfoot on the Science Channel. Now, listeners, I am fascinated with all this, and yet at the same time a little skeptical. But overall, I just get a big kick out of it. I really do. And I used to love watching in theaters. And Alisa, you could, and I don't know if you've seen these in the theaters, but Sun Productions, they did these pseudo documentaries in the 70s, like the Bigfoot one, the Loch Ness Monster, I don't know, those are just so cool. And it's plus, growing up in the 70s, I think it must have been 10 years old. I mean, going to the movies, just something to do during a Saturday afternoon, without any parent, when it was a little more safer back then. Now,
Well, safe from everyone except Bigfoot.
yes. Now, a brief description about Project Cryptid from from the Ahoy Comics website. And Hannah, just feel free to jump in. Now they described it as, that this series will transport readers from the depths of Loch Ness to the wilds of the Yeti Himalayan mountains to the Ohio backroads where Loveland Frogman lurks, asking the important questions like, are any of these mysterious, unthinkable creatures actually real? And more importantly, are they funny? Now, this new anthology will feature stories from Alisa, Hanna, Mark Russell, Alex Segura, Bryce Ingram, art by Peter Cross, Jamal Ingo, just to name a few. Now, Alisa, I'm going to start off with you. What is your story about? Because yours is going to be issue 2 that comes out in October, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, Mauricet and I have done 2 stories together. So the first is Chupahuahua, and that one is coming out, I guess in October, you said, right? Issue 2. So that's Chupahuahua, and it is really, well, I took a real story that happened to my daughter's friend, and I turned it into something different. I got permission from the young woman, so I can tell you what it's based on, actually, because it's based. So I like horror, but I like horror with a lot of lightness, and so one of the things that I wanted to write about was the Chupacabra, and you can look up Chupacabras. They're kind of a fairly recent cryptid, in that, there people have had these sightings of this creature that has a sort of vampiric ability to drain blood from livestock and people. They are described variously as being somewhat canid in their appearance, or somewhat reptilian. So there seems to be a gray area. And so they're often seen more out in the Southwest. I think around New Mexico has been more of and there have been other sightings as well, but not in the New York area. So my daughter had been living out in Taos, New Mexico at the Earthship Academy, which is this wonderful place that builds sustainable houses out of tires and beer cans and bottles. But it's out on the mesa. So people live in various areas out on the mesa. It's a different kind of rural. And it's a wonderfully spooky, haunted landscape. So I went to visit her last summer. And I just thought, this is an incredibly evocative place, both visually. Obviously, it's inspired George O'Keeffe and a lot of artists, but also in terms of, you can feel the history and a very different kind of history there. So a long story, try to make it shorter. Sorry, I realize I'm babbling.
No, don't worry. I mean, if you're okay with time, wait, Hannah, are you also okay with time too?
Over here.
Okay, so yeah, no, please, yeah.
Okay, so this young woman was taking an electric bicycle. I can't remember if electric or I think it was electric, to work, and it's this very deserted long stretch of mesas, like desert area. And someone took her bicycle, so she didn't have any way except walking to get to the main area where the guest house is that greets people. She called her boss and said, I'm walking in. The boss said, don't, I'm coming to get you. But the young woman had already set off, and she was attacked by a bunch of dogs. And they were, dogs can be scary. I'm a huge dog lover. I have 2 myself, but these were dogs that were, I think they actually, at first I thought they were feral, but they were dogs that belonged to someone who wasn't taking proper care of them. And they were starting to drag her off when her boss stopped the car and got out and had to really shoo the dogs away and rescue this young woman. So I thought, well, that is real horror. But I don't write real horror. I write sort of gross out adjacent horror. And so I asked my daughter to ask her if I could turn this story into something much more upbeat.
Yeah, no, yes.
And also more disgusting.
Mhm.
Because that's sort of where my mind goes. So Chupahuahua is a version of that. And I should also mention that I sort of created my own version with Mauricet of the Golden Girls. They're like an updated triad of older women, and they're going on vacation.
Mhm.
And so Chupahuahua is their first adventure, and it
Mhm.
features the hippiest one of them. The second story, which will come out later, is with the same three women, but it's another woman's story.
Oh, so cool.
Thanks.
Oh my God.
And I have to say that Mauricet is so wonderful. Alain is his real first name. And you know, like, I take him to some pretty strange places, and we go back and forth so much. And in a way, I mean, it's collaborative in a different way than I've ever been with an artist. So we are very much telling, so I'll send him the script, but he'll give me feedback, and sometimes he draws things differently. And then I think we've been evolving into something quite different, you know, than how I've worked with other artists in the past, in just that there's more communication, and it allows for that. You know, one of my role models is Terry Moore, who's both a writer and an artist, and Strangers in Paradise and Echo and Rachel Rising, just so many wonderful, funny / thriller, funny / horror or science fiction, but also with these very authentic emotions. And one of the things that makes Terry, to my mind, so fantastic is his ability to shift tones. And I think it could be harder to do if you're not the writer and the artist. But I feel like because Alain and I communicate so much, we've gotten into a groove. We're definitely not one person, but we definitely have a rapport now. So anyway, so that is my Chupahuahua story to begin with, and it was approved by the young woman who's anyway. That's my story.
But oh my God, that is, I'm going to be honest, I can't wait to read that story. I really can't. And and Hannah, please feel free to jump in at any time. You know, listeners, you know, like Alisa and Mauricet, you know, to me, in Guilt, that is so far their best work up to date, until we see, you know, your story in issue number 2. But I love Mauricet's, some of his facial expressions are subtle, and it conveys so much.
Yes. Okay. So this is so to me, the most important thing when working with an artist is what, you know, comic book editors call the acting. So the acting is we often say, oh, well, the writer is writing a script that's like a screenplay. So they're like the screenplay writer and the director, but the artist is the cinematographer. But they're also all the actors. And the acting is how much the artist can capture those fine nuances of emotion. And, you know, it's interesting, when I've taught writing, I say, you don't want to dictate to an artist, you know, raises one eyebrow, the left side of their mouth twitches infinitesimally. You don't do that. You call out the emotion that the character is feeling, and then the artist interprets. But I think Alain is just so capable and he is the only artist I've ever known who willingly adds more panels to what I've already written if he thinks the timing will be improved.
Hannah, do you want to add anything to that?
Oh, I mean, I haven't read it yet. I wish I had, but I'm looking forward to when that review PDF drops into my inbox. I love the idea of, you know, having a set of characters that are moving different adventures, especially if Project Crib comes back for a second, which as of yet, we cannot confirm it. If it were to, then that would be pretty cool to see those characters.
Yes, I have to say, sorry, before I start asking you some questions. Yeah, Alisa, I love the idea that your little golden girls, is your golden girl type characters are not just in one story, but they're also going to come back in another story later in the series.
Okay, so the funny thing is, so I just was on From Cradle to Grave podcast talking about Creepshow.
Oh, okay.
And I was talking about if you remember the original 1982 Creepshow movie.
Yes.
There's one of the episodes is a kind of Sasquatchy Yeti like character, and in it, Adrienne Barbeau, the actress who is B. Arthur's daughter on the 70s feminist Tom Lehrer show, Maud, she is, of the category of woman who just needs a good slap, which is, such a trope of, from the 30s and 40s, and as a woman, you watch these and you think, oh God, that woman just needs what am I saying? Why have I been manipulated into this? And so I thought it was kind of funny because my second story, I will say less about this. I mean, I can say there's a Yeti in it. And the character who interacts with the Yeti is based a bit on B. Arthur, the actress who played Maud, and Dorothy on The Golden Girls.
Oh, that is so cool. That is so cool. Oh my God, I can't wait to read these stories. That is so cool. Hannah, I'm going to ask you, so what is your story about, and which cryptid creature did you focus on the story on?
Sure. So mine's called Cryptids Anonymous, and it's actually got like a whole bunch of cryptids in it. It's just I could not choose a cryptid, so I removed the choice for myself by making a bunch. So the idea is generally that like all the cryptids in the world get together for a monthly meeting to discuss, cryptid business, various threats to their identities, and various things that they can do to hide or to whatever it may be, that whatever the cryptids have on their monthly agenda, they get together to talk about it. So it's kind of like a silly, meeting where all the cryptids are there and there's power struggles. Yeti and the Bigfoot don't necessarily get along. They have different what it means to be a powerful, cryptid. And there's a bunch of, comic relief cryptids running in and out of the space. And so I was doing a bunch of research when I, was told that I was able to write this. So I was like, I'm going to do a ton of research. And I kept thinking like, this cryptid is cool. Ooh, this cryptid's cool. This. And then I was like, clearly, I just need to write all the cryptid here. So, so that was really fun. And I'm kind of looking forward to, I saw a page of inks for the first time. So that's the first, art I've ever received that anyone made based off my words. And I'm like, oh, cool. So very excited to kind of see how it all plays out.
Who's your artist?
Their name is Lane Lloyd. I've never worked with them. Well, I've never worked with any artists before, but I've seen some of their art and it's really cool. So it's got this like kind of absurdist, surreal, cartoony vibe to it. Cool. So I feel like it goes well with the the band of kooks that are at the Cryptids Anonymous meeting. So
I love the idea that Bigfoot and Yeti are having like the narcissism of small differences issues.
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, make sure to give like the Bigfoot. I was like, Yeti's like a bro, and like the Bigfoot is like a different type. And I was like, maybe give him a nose ring or something. So I saw the art and he has a nose ring, and I'm like, I'm obsessed. I'm so excited.
I don't know if it's appropriate at this moment, but I do have an actual Bigfoot encounter story that happened sort of to me.
Yes.
What could be more appropriate?
Yes. Go.
Okay. This is just okay. So growing up, my uncle, who was like a father to me, I would go to Florida, and he was a lawyer who also became half owner of a nudist camp. And the Seminole nudist camp, which is also appropriation, but okay, it was the 70s. And so I would go to the Seminole nudist camp. And one night, so my uncle had a camper, and my friend and I were in the camper watching his little black and white TV. And I remember that it was Passover, Easter, and we were watching the 10 Commandments. And all of a sudden, and this is out in Davie, Florida, which is Davie is, if for people who don't know, it's very rural. It's not Miami built up city, it's quite outbacky, and not quite like the Mesa, but still. And there I was, this city kid in a camper, you know, watching the 10 Commandments in a nudist camp, as you do. And suddenly there was a news bulletin interrupting, saying, there have been reports of Bigfoot sightings. You know, again, I can't attest to exactly what the language was, but it was very clear that they were saying someone claimed to have spotted a Bigfoot in the area. And my friend and I were about 7 or 8 years old, and we're like, oh my God. And then suddenly we hear thump, 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 thump. And there's a rattling of the door.
Yeah.
And it's my uncle. So my uncle was not a Bigfoot, and he was irritated by that. But I remember it as my Bigfoot encounter.
Oh my God. But that I have to say, that is all wrapped up. That is so cool that a news station goes, we have news, there's a Bigfoot sighting. You know, it's like,
I have to say that I think it must have been a slow news day,
yes.
But also I really have another story to tell at some point about, you know, Bigfoot in a nudist camp.
That's a comic waiting to be drawn right there by some brave souls.
Very carefully.
Yes. Oh my God. Oh, so okay, so because Alisa, because I saw that on the Ahoy website, your encounter, so I was kind of going, because we know Ahoy Comics, they like, yeah, they make, you know, it's always, there's a little bit of the puns and so forth, and I just thought that because I know
you assumed, as any sane person would, that my story about a Bigfoot encounter at a nudist camp, it was made up.
Yeah, it's so funny. You want to be? You know, there's so many jokes to that, and I thought, but oh my God! But when you're telling us a little bit more detail that you and your friend are in this camper watching the 10 Commandments,
Charlton Heston, you cannot make this up.
Yes. Oh my God! But that's a cool story. That is a cool story. Hannah, I'm going to ask, have you had any experience growing up, anything like that, or a friend of a friend type deal?
Unfortunately, I haven't. I don't know. Are there cryptids in the LA area? I feel like there's too much pollution, too many lights to skip away. I'd have to go out to Joshua Tree and things. But I haven't had many encounters.
So, okay, all right. Well, alligators in the sewers. There you go. There's
Jason. Yeah. What about you?
So, actually, because when I was preparing for because I know Alex has a story in issue number Alex Segura. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing his last name correctly. Because when I was preparing for his interview, I was thinking about mine. So, because in Hawaii, like I'm going to be, we never really call them cryptids, but ours is more of Hawaiian legends, because anywhere in most places in Hawaii, especially the Big Island, it's, you know, we have all these Hawaiian legends there. Now, I've never experienced anything on the Big Island. So in Hawaii, we have and I'm just going with memories, that we have something called menehunis. Basically, menehunis, I think for like I think in either is it Scottish or Irish folklore, like leprechauns, basically short little people. You know, sometimes they cause a little mischief. Sometimes they bring good luck to people. And it kind of, the stories that we hear always varies. So this happened back in the 90s on Kauai, in the northern part of Kauai, and it's the famous Kalalau Trail. And you hike in. It's a 26-mile hike-in trail. There are 3 campsites. The first campsite is called Hanakapiai. People, so if you just go there for a day, you can it's easy to just, you know, it's a little bit rough, but the terrain's a little bit rough, but you can make it and you can go to the beach. The rest of the way is, oh my God, you need backpack, you know, you really gotta plan and everything. So the first night that we got to Hanakapiai, and I remember it was 3 o'clock in the morning, and if I remember correctly, it was a full moon. So me and a friend were sharing. There were 6 of us in the group, so each of us were, you know, we were 2 guys in each tent. So 3 o'clock I remember exactly, about 3 o'clock in the morning, I hear kids running around and laughing outside. So when I heard that, I was like, I'm going to scare these kids. Ah! My friend wakes up going, what are you doing? I said, there's kids outside. They're running around laughing. We go outside. There's nothing. we don't see a kid around or anything.
Ooh.
Yes. So
okay, that is scary.
yes.
It's much scarier when it doesn't just turn out to be your uncle.
Yes. So I think that's the closest I would say that would be probably the closest thing for a folklore or legend story that I can come up with. Yeah.
I think that is your story to write, Jason.
No, it's not. I'm not born to write, trust me. So, all right. Sorry, I'm going to keep going on. Because Alisa, how are you doing with time? Alisa, how are you doing with time?
I'm okay. I can keep going a bit.
Okay, so I'm going to ask this question to Hanna, and feel free to jump in, Alisa. So, Hanna, like how did Ahoy Comics come up with this new anthology series? Like, was there a Zoom meeting or?
I'm not sure. I do know that the project is Sarah Litt's baby. She's one of the editors at Ahoy. So I'm pretty sure this was just sort of her brainchild that she was really excited about getting done, and reached out to a bunch of creators to get them on board. Ahoy's last big anthology was the Edgar Allan Poe Snifter of series, Snifter of Blood, Snifter of Death. It's full of all sorts of things, but I think what's really cool about the anthology format is that you do get to get so many different writers and creators in, and also you skip that problem of like, oh, if I haven't picked up number 1, I'm not going to pick up 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it may be. So the cool part about the anthology is that you can just hop in on any issue. So I know they're probably looking for like, what other cool anthology can we do? And I know that Sarah Litt came up with a Cryptid idea, which is really cool because there's so many ways you can go with it, like, and you can see it being sort of replicable with different series down the line. So yeah, I'm not totally sure if there was a Zoom meeting. I wasn't on it, but I do know that it's Sarah Litt's baby and that she's super excited about the future of the series, and I was really grateful that she invited me to be a part of it. She was gonna, write something, a short story or a comic, and I was like, I've written a comic before, and she was like, perfect, then you'll write a comic. I was like, okay, cool. So it was really cool to be like supported rather than being like, oh no, we'll get you another short story, you can do those. So it was really cool that she had enough faith in me to go out of my comfort zone. So I know that much, that it is Sarah Litt's baby, and I'm really grateful that she brought me on. And there's so many other cool part of this project, and I hope that it keeps going. There, as is obvious here, there are so many more cryptid stories to be told. Yes.
So many, and I know Tom Pyre, mentioned to me at one point that he just hopes that there's always going to be an anthology at Ahoy, and that there's, I think for a lot of people like him, like me, that grew up reading comic book anthologies, House of Mystery, House of Secrets, the old EC anthologies, Vampirella, Creepy, Eerie. It's just, there were all these great, usually horror themed anthologies, and the loss of them has felt really sad, because the idea that comics of a necessity involve, incredible amounts of superhero continuity.
Yes.
That's not the only kind of comic there was. And so I think this is a venerable tradition.
Now, Alisa, how did you get involved with this? How, did Sarah contacted you, or?
Sarah contacted me early on, and she said, she was doing this cryptid, anthology, and did, I think she said characters like Chupacabra, Yeti, something else. And I said, yes. And it instantly, like in the email, wrote a Chupacabra and a Yeti pitch. And she said, okay. I said, okay. So every once in a while, this doesn't happen often in a writer's life or in my life, where you just say a sentence and the editor's like, go for it. So when it happens, it's, it's like, I don't know, it's this wonderful, effortless, like pitchgasm. So it's a great rare thing.
And then off the cuff question, did you say, hey, I want Alan to come and do this, to draw this story, these two stories, or did they team you guys up again?
I think at this point we're kind of, I mean, it's not that we can't do things with other people, but I think I don't remember how it is. We're sort of an established, we do a lot of things together now. And I hope, that continues, because I mean, my mom once said to me, look, most marriages in rock bands do not last forever, but I'm optimistic. This has been a really good partnership. So I think, I can't remember. I think I was like, me and Alan, and Sarah said, yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to do an off the cuff thing here, because listeners, I'm going to give a shout out to Conan on number 1. Mauricet's cover was the best one, because he put little Easter eggs, and in the far left corner, I think there was like a little board thing, because I remember I was looking through it. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And I see Kwitney. Hey, that's
Yes, and I put little boy Alan into Guilt. There's a scene where there's a little French-speaking boy at the airport. So
oh my God, yes.
Yeah, so I had to have him do the French because I don't really speak French.
God, yes, that's right. Hannah, I'm gonna ask, do you want to add anything to that? Or...
No, that cover is so cool, and I felt like I spent hours studying it, and I didn't see all the things that were there. People found it on Twitter and were like, "Look at this." I thought I had looked at this closely enough, but clearly not. It was really cool to see all the the layers and the depth.
Yes, it's very good. Yes. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. So, Hannah, I'm going to start off with you. Do you want to give any shout outs to anyone else on the creative team who helped you with your story?
Absolutely. I mean, I'd love to shout out Sarah Lipp for, opening the door for me and being really encouraging, and Tom Pear, was the first one who suggested I submit a short story to Ahoy, which it's just really cool to, have someone open the door for you, right? I mean, it's a really great, it's this thing I'm really grateful for that I don't take for granted. So both of them have been, I mean, everyone at Ahoy honestly has been incredible to work with. Just a really great team, super nice people who go to bat for each other and for the creators on their team, and that's really awesome. And shout out to Lane Lloyd for drawing my story, which I haven't seen yet. And shout out to David Hyde for giving my job. Shout everyone out.
Alisa, what about you? Any shout outs?
God, I always, I mean, I love the team at Ahoy, and Hannah's been fantastic. Lately I've somehow tricked Tom Peyer into talking with me. So sometimes once a week or once every other week, he just starts to tell me weird things he's watching. And I think lately he just mentioned to me, I Married an Alien, I think it's called. It's a film from the 50s that's just, and he goes into weird esoteric places where I think I know an obscure thing, and it turns out he's written his dissertation on that weird obscure thing. So I find him very inspirational to talk to.
I'm gonna say that's so cool that you guys still keep in touch with each other, because your friendships, now correct me if I'm wrong, your friendship started basically in the 90s at DC Comics.
Yes, when we were both fetuses that were both, we were fetuses who smoked, and we shared an office. And it was really funny because when we moved, we were given an office that they thought was going to be a computer room. And we had no windows, but the best ventilation. And it was like the last of the indoor smokers. But you would come into our office and you didn't smell any cigarette smoke, because these powerful air conditioners were just sucking it all and probably polluting someone else.
Now, I'm slowly wrapping things up. Now, before I ask this question, and listeners, I just want to make it clear that I'm not looking to bash any other publishers or anything like that, because every publisher brings their own different voice to the table. Alisa, I'm going to ask you, what do you love about working with Ahoy Comics?
Oh God, it's like when you go into a small but exquisite restaurant where they actually know you and they remember, they know your drink. They remember that you're allergic to sesame. There's something individual and specific, and it reminds me of what it was like working at Vertigo, where it felt you did not feel like a cog in a big machine.
Yes.
And I feel like there's lines of communication that are open and immediate, and a lot of freedom to be creative and to discover things. So this has been an amazing home. So I could kind of, babble even more about it, but it's very heartfelt.
Hanna, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. They're pretty much, I feel like the first client that when David hired me, he sort of set me loose at Ahoy. He was like, everyone here is really, really great. You're gonna have the best time here. And it's so true. Everyone's been so wonderful to work with, just on a human level, and then also in a business sense. I feel like they're really thoughtful, and they stand by their word. I think what I love best about the work there is that they seem to have so much trust in their creators, which is why you get stories with like such strong voices, right? Like every single book on Ahoy's docket, there isn't really a common thread other than the voices are so strong, and they're funny, they're thoughtful, they're incisive in some way. And I feel like so much of that comes from the immense amount of trust that they have in their creators. They're like, this is your, platform to write what you want to write, to draw what you want to draw, to create the stories and tell the stories you want. And they're bringing those people on because they respect, their voices and what they have to say. So you never feel like they're trying to, shave your story down to be more palatable or more marketable or whatever, like that they're really invested in each creator's voice. And then finding the audience for that voice, right? Like that's part of my role as Superfan, is that I remember when David hired me, he was like, no one wants to be marketed at, no one wants to be sold, but like people want to be told about a book that they want to be told about, right? Like people that want to read those stories want to know about it. And that's sort of our job, to be the conduit, right, between the people making incredible art and the audiences out there that are going to want that art. So I feel like that's what's really cool about working for Ahoy, in that sense of like, we're getting incredible art, incredible stories with such strong voices. And it's just our job to find the people that want those stories, because we know they're out there, right? So it feels really cool that they've got such a strong identity, and they're still chugging in year 5, and there's some stuff on the horizon. Like, feel really gratified to be.
Thank you very much. I'm going to start wrapping things up. I'm going to actually go down. I'm going to ask a couple more questions. Hanna, because I already asked Alisa this question in the first time we did the interview, but Hanna, have you and your family been to Hawaii?
Have not.
Okay.
On the bucket list.
It's on your bucket list. Okay. Now, Alisa, I'm going to say this out loud because I'm still putting your name in under guest requests at local cons to bring you down here. Yeah, I am.
I thank you so much. One of these days I've got to find my way to come to Hawaii. It's been a lifelong dream. And I realize that it is probably not like a combination of the Elvis movie and It's a Small World after all, but the little part with the islands. But I've just always thought that it would be an amazing place to go. And it'll happen. Yes, I'm realizing I'm babbling inarticulately. I would like to come and meet your giggling cryptids.
Oh my God. I'm gonna, sorry, off the cuff, but when you come down, I'm gonna point you to one of those what is it? It's one of those not ghost story tours, but one of those, it's kind of, I would just say it's a ghost story tour. I think you would love it.
Absolutely.
Bring your daughter and your son down. You guys are going to love it, but I think you're also going to get freaked out by it too.
Happily freaked out is my favorite flavor.
And Hanna, because I think you already know this, because I'm trying to see a convention organizer down here to try to bring, Ahoy Comics down here for their convention. That would,
Yeah.
you know. So Alisa, if you hear about that, you're going to go, I'm in, I'm here, you know.
Absolutely. I will be packing myself and in their suitcase.
Yeah. Come on, Mark Russell, make room for me, you know. All right. Hannah, I'm going to ask you, Hannah, I'm going to start off with you. Any closing words to our listeners?
I guess the only last thing I want to say is that when Project Cryptid 1 comes out in September, there's going to be that first issue of the prose serial by Grant Morrison in the back there. It's called Partially Naked Came the Corpse. It's a wild, like, detective murder mystery with about like 13 different detectives, and I've only gotten like a first glimpse at it because I was like, I need to sit down and actually read this before I write my section. And it's off the wall. It's incredible. And there's some really cool John Proctor art that goes with each section as well, which is also really being surreal. So that should be cool. I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna be writing the 11th segment of the 13 part thing. Hopefully it's not hopefully I can help guide the plane onto the runway. So that should be really cool. It's gonna be in the backup materials of like a bunch of different books that are coming out in that sort of 5th anniversary period between. So you'll kind of have a thing.
That's right.
That's really cool. And then other than that, I feel really glad you invited me on the show today. I feel really glad I got to meet you, talk more about Giggling Cryptids, which is my next band name.
Alisa, what about you? Any closing words?
I feel that I will never outdo Giggling Cryptid, so I'll just leave it at that. But it was great. It was great talking with you again, and I'm really excited to read your story, Hannah. The narcissism of small Sasquatch differences is going to be great reading.
Thank you.
What is the title? What is the actual title?
I think it's called Cryptids Anonymous, I believe.
That is great. And do you know it's issue 6?
I think issue 6 is where it's slated for now. We don't have the solicit copy yet, but pencil it in for February.
Well, I'm excited to read that.
And Alisa, thank you for bringing this up. What is the title for your story that's going to appear in issue 2?
Chupahuahua.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Alisa and Hannah, mahalo for your time. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to interview both of you. Alisa, it's great to see you again. Thank you very much for coming back on the show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm really excited. I'm not being sarcastic. I'm really looking forward to reading both of your stories in Project Cryptid. Hannah, thank you very much for setting up this interview. If you are a new comic book reader or a lifelong comic book reader, please check out Ahoy Comics. I love this publisher. Alisa said it best. To me, Ahoy Comics is like that nice little small restaurant that knows you. What I've read, it's a very each issue to me. It's like each issue is like a nice meal. That's what it is. It really is. Ahoy Comics, there are times where it's funny, but at the same time, there's the undertone of that. There's a little bit of a seriousness and also a little bit of a heart to the story, But listeners, but let me also say this too as well, too, that, I also like other comic book publishers, because I'm going to say the big two for me, I'll say this is that, and I always compare it, they're kind of like the fast food of comics. I love the junk food. I love to read the superhero stuff. It's fast and it's great and big and bombastic. But I also love to have the nice meals at Ahoy Comics. It's very good. It really is.
I'm hungry.
Me too.
Now, Project Cryptid, the first issue comes out on September 6th. Alisa's story, that is in issue 2, that is slated for release on October 11th. Hannah's story will appear in issue 6, that is slated for February 24th. And if you have not signed up for their newsletter, please do so. It's very good. It's very funny. It's very good. I want to thank Drew, the Codes of Comics for Fun and Profit, for putting this episode together. Drew, thank you very much for all your hard work behind the scenes. And if you are a new listener, please check out new episodes of Comics for Fun and Profit that comes out every Saturday. And I want to thank you, the listeners. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for listening to this episode. Until next time, guys. Aloha.
It's time for our summer patron giveaway. Yes, this time we're doing a prize pack of selected comics, some swag, some special stuff, gifts from Jason from Hawaii, so some Hawaiian goodies, all kinds of fun stuff to share our love to you, the patrons. So if you would like to be included in our summertime giveaway, just become a patron at any level between now and Labor Day. So it's a summer giveaway, and then after Labor Day, we will pull a patron randomly from the stack and send you a prize pack. Now, not only do you get entered to win, you got to be in it to win it, by the way. That's what they say. You get on-air thanks and show note shout-outs, priority inclusion of your feedback and questions or comments into the show, access to our patron-only Slack community, very popular, exclusive content. You get bonus episodes that nobody else gets. You get early access to bonus episodes or regular episodes. You get them ad-free. You get them unedited. Sometimes that's a blessing and a curse, depending on your feelings there. All kinds of fun stuff. And the levels go up. You get more stuff. But that's kind of the ground floor stuff you get coming in as a patron. So please do so. It also means that you like what we're doing and you're sharing and caring enough to throw us a couple of shekels our way. And we appreciate that. And it helps keep the lights on. It helps pay the server fees. It helps keep us going and keep us doing it on our road to 1,000 episodes. Can we get there? I hope so. But everything's going up. It's getting harder and harder to justify luxury expenses like podcast fees. So your help is greatly appreciated, and we want to continue that. Some of you just do it just to say thanks. We appreciate that. Some of you do it for the giveaway. Some of you do it for some of the tier perks. All those are valid. So whatever your reasoning, join our Patreon. Give us a little bit of love. We appreciate it. Come contest time, we'll pull your name, and you will get a fun prize pack mailed directly to you. Thank you for listening, and thank you for your support. Now back to the show.